To order. Roll call, please.
Alderman Lazara. Alderman Jacob.
Here.
Alderman Winger. Alderman Catalano.
Here.
Alderman Sismarski. Alderman Roy Wesley.
Here.
Alderman Woods.
Here.
Alderman Eugene Wesley.
Here.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes from July 25th, 2013.
So move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Quiet zone update. It's all yours, chief.
All right, thank you. As everyone knows, based on part of the strategic plan and also direction of council, we're looking at the quiet zone again. That was based on a presentation that was made in July about possible changes that had happened to the intersection and possible avenues for upgrading and possibly getting a quiet zone. During that meeting, there was a lot of unknowns. And based on that, I contacted the Federal Railroad Administration, who approves all quiet zones, and then put together a meeting with the FRA, city representatives, Metra, CP Rail, IDOT, the Illinois Commerce Commission, DuPage County Department of Transportation, and HR Green that's doing the upgrades at Irving and Wooddale next year. So we had a long meeting. We went over the upcoming plans for Irving and Wooddale, and we also reviewed the Ash Street crossing and current conditions that are over there. Based upon that meeting, which included site visits and measuring of all the intersections and some of that stuff, I'm back to report that there's still some pretty significant hurdles, financial hurdles, to putting in a quiet zone. The biggest hurdle that needs to be taken care of in order to even consider a quiet zone at Ash Street is, while some of the signaling has been upgraded around there, the actual signals at the intersection still do not have the constant warning time devices. And if you remember, that was no matter how fast a train is going, it gives a set amount of time warning for motorists or pedestrians that might be walking there. In talking to Metra, it's been on their funding request for several years, but they have no set time for when they're going to receive funding in the area of $350,000 to $400,000 to upgrade those signals at the Ash Street crossing. There's some things that you can receive waivers for or adjustments for, but there's absolutely no waiver that is given by the FRA if you do not have the constant warning time devices at the location. So that's the big hurdle we have right now at Ash Street. Financially coming with that hurdle is $350,000 to $400,000. Metra does not know when they'll get funding. There are some ICC grants out there that are possible to upgrade intersections. And in talking to DuPage County Department of Transportation, Metra, and all the other representatives, it's not a quick process. DuPage County just got funding on one of those after a couple years of the grant process. But there are grants out there. It would likely have to involve city engineering staff. We're kind of taking this as far as we can as staff, but there's drawings and data and stuff that would have to be collected and compiled as part of this grant process. So at Ash Street, there's a couple options. Number one, a quiet zone cannot happen now, no matter how much anyone wants it to, without this upgrade. Either you wait for Metra to fund that upgrade, which there's no set timeline, or you pursue a grant, which is not a guarantee. And I guess the other option would be that the city could choose to budget for it and expend that type of money, but you're talking $350,000 to $400,000 just to that intersection. After that, you'd have to put in some type of center raised median there and get the buy-in of the businesses in the area, which that might not be a huge obstacle to overcome, but to have 100 feet of median in each direction or get a waiver from the FRA. So that's the status at Ash Street. Irving and Wooddale, they went over all the improvements there, which are substantial. Irving and Wooddale, there's some issues with, from the intersection of Wooddale and Irving, a center raised median would be much less than the required 100 feet between Irving Park Road and the tracks. Now, with all the other safety improvements that are occurring there, there's a chance that the FRA would issue a waiver because that's the designed intersection, but that's a hurdle that would have to be approved. It's not a guaranteed quiet zone, you'd have to go through a more formal process to get that approved. And last part of that is the 2 pedestrian platforms at the train station. If there were to be a quiet zone implemented throughout town, Metra and ICC said that while they can't stop a quiet zone based on it, what they would probably go on record as saying is that dwarf pedestrian gates be installed at those 2 crossings, and then you're talking another $300,000 to $400,000 if you chose to not go with, or to go with their recommendation. As I mentioned, you know, we went to the table and we're hopeful that maybe it was going to cost less, but there's still some big hurdles out there. So we're just looking for direction at this point. Does council want status quo, kind of wait for now? Do they want to involve some type of engineering staff that's not budgeted and I don't know, have an amount to apply for a grant? Or do we wait until Metra upgrades their crossings and then pursue this again, which will be likely several years down the road?
Okay, thank you for that. Before we go to the council questions, I have a card for Lisa that wants to speak. Please, name and address for the.
Lisa Crane Adler, I live at 188 North Central Avenue.
Okay. I hope this is just questions and comments.
Oh, okay, I was just going to read something.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay. I've lived at 188 North Central now for the past 3.5 years, and before that, I lived in Arlington Heights for 25 years, 2 blocks from the train station. And the discussion tonight, which is brought to us in regards to the train horns, we just find, and I'm very happy to see all the neighbors that came tonight to show their push for this also. It seems like the train horns have just gotten louder, worse, longer. Everyone that I've talked to in the last couple days, they say the same thing. I've even spoken to some of the businesses that have outdoor seating. That's a big thing to me as a resident of a town, is to be able to go outside and enjoy a beautiful evening, like tonight. Driving over here, I saw one couple out at Marino's, I saw one couple out at White Cottage, and I saw one at the barbecue pit. That's it. I went in and talked to them, especially Shorty's. He himself spoke and said, yes, he has had a little bit of decrease business because of outside business. Don't know about the inside, but the outside. You know, because they're saying that they just feel that the horn is blown from one end all the way over to there. And living in Arlington Heights for 25 years and seeing how that town has also grown, and knowing the mayor over there, Arlene Mulder, and going to some of those meetings, you know, we talk about $300,000, $400,000, but I'm curious as to what we're paying to do this downtown area, which is going to be beautiful also. It took Arlington Heights a long time too, don't get me wrong. But looking at those intersections today when I went to work, I can tell you that, number one, it's 3 tracks. And number 2, every crossing, Arlington Heights Road and 14, Dunton and 14, Vale and 14, none of them have medians. None of them. Gates are down. You can easily go around them. And the safety, I think, we're talking about too. And another question I have also is, you know, how many of these accidents that have happened are actually accidents, which those are things that we cannot change. Accidents are accidents. They happen. We're adults. We know, I knew as a kid, you don't go around train gates. You don't go on the tracks. You don't walk on the tracks. And then I also want to know what the amount is of suicides. And you just cannot help that at all. I'm in the health profession myself, and that's just another issue. And I don't think that should really be looked at as an accident for train rails. But again, and if you do look at the downtown area, you look at Arlington Heights, you've got high-end businesses underneath condos, townhouses, apartments. You've got the train right into, they also have Metropolis Center, which is a theater. They also have a theater itself that has now come back. And they have tons and tons of restaurants that I frequent still because I do not hear trains over there. So I do thank you. I thank you neighbors for coming, and I hope we can keep going with this.
Could you tell me those towns again that didn't have the medium?
Arlington Heights is one of them.
Was
It's the intersections.
Okay, she just mentioned one? Okay. Is it,
Yeah, Arlington Heights Road and 14,
okay,
and then you've got Dunton, which is the next one. Then you've got Vale, and then you've got right onto the racetrack. Now, the only one that does have median is the one over by the racetrack.
okay.
Mhm.
Greg, you want to respond?
Yeah, I was just gonna mention that I have some information on that. So the center median doesn't decide if it's allowed to be a quiet zone. It's what our quiet zone risk index is, and that's set by the federal government based on history there and engineering. There is only one accident that currently is listed on there, and that was the accident at Ash Street where the elderly gentleman drove through the gates a few years ago. Suicides are not included in their risk rating. It's just information that I've learned from this. So the median that would have to be put on Ash Street is because even from what I've told, once that accident drops off, and if they get the constant warning time devices, they're saying still that intersection would need the median to bring our risk, basically making it as safe or safe to not have train horns as the federal government considers it to have train horns. So it's their rating. It's not something that the city has said we need to have the medians, it's the federal government.
Okay,
I also just wanted to say that if we are going to be doing this big downtown area, which I think it's a great idea, don't get me wrong, I came from Arlington Heights when it was little to big, it's awesome, but if you have that loud train going, you will not have people downtown.
well, my personal
my thoughts.
opinion, I want you to stay here and eat, so. Okay. Questions from the council. Let's start with Alderman Wesley.
Craig, let me back up here. You saying just the Ash Street alone was 350 to 400,000, am I correct?
That's their estimate, yes.
Okay, and then you were saying at the train station, we would have to put some gates, and what's the price on that? 30,000?
No. So the Illinois Commerce Commission that governs railroads in Illinois and Metra, they have to be a part of the quiet zone approval process. What they imparted to us at that meeting is if Irving and Wooddale becomes safe enough to have a quiet zone at the platform, they would not officially sign off on it without pedestrian gates there.
Who won't? I'm sorry.
ICC
Okay.
and Metra. Now, what they said is they can't officially stop the quiet zone from happening there, but they would probably, and they have done before, issued a letter of recommendation to say that these gates should be installed if the city wants a quiet zone through, and I'd have to refer to the city attorney whether that would put the city at any position if there were an accident, but they're saying that's $300,000 to $400,000. It's like a new intersection over there to put in a new set of gates that interact with the trains and the other intersections.
Can I do a couple of follow-ups? All right, and so if we do that, was Metro also going to try and fund that? Was that in their budget too?
No.
Okay, my other question is, actually, two more. My other question is, what is Bentsville doing? Have we outreached to Bentsville, a quiet zone? Because the question raised before that we have to have, if I'm mistaken, maybe I'm back, that we have to have so much mileage or length of the tracks to be qualified for a quiet zone. And I believe we asked you to check in Bentonville, what are they doing in Bentonville for a quiet zone? And I believe Itasca was also looking at quiet zone. So where was that conversation going at?
Their official position is they haven't applied finally for the quiet zone. It's my understanding, though, that Bensonville is looking at possibly closing some intersections to bring their safety rating low enough. Itasca is proceeding forward. They've done their site visits. They're kind of where we would be in 2-3 months if this was moving forward. So Itasca is looking to do so too, especially once the Rowling Road construction is done. As far as the length of area that has to be a quiet zone, it's a half mile. And so with that interacting with the Irving and Wooddale intersection, we'd have to get approval from Bensonville to go partially into their jurisdiction to get the quiet zone. That's possible.
So, here's my question. I'm sorry. My other question is, okay, so we go ahead and find the money to fund this project, okay? Say we put the money up front down the line, okay? And Metro, we get an agreement with Metro, we'll fund this project right now, but you're going, once that project's coming forward, that you pay us back. It's like a loan, okay? What, you know, we'll reach an agreement or whatever we decide, if this council decide that. My whole concern is if Bensonville doesn't sign off on it, we have no leg to stand on, as far as I'm concerned. So do I want to put this council, and believe me, I hear the training whistles as much as everyone else here. And we talked about, I think we should move forward and try to find something in this. But the point is, if I can't get cooperation from Bensonville and sign off before we commit any money to this, I'm sorry, there's no way, if I can't get cooperation there, I'm not going to be able to get in our town. It's just the rules that they set, I guess. And with the gates, I just can't believe we would have to put gates over at the train station, too. I mean, I'm still not, I still want to move forward with this, but the point is, until we get an agreement with Bensonville, I just don't see how we can fund this right now. I mean, that's the key right there. Okay.
I was gonna say perhaps, $400,000 in the budget of Metro may not be that much. There's a decision maker somewhere up the line that can make that decision, and that's probably beyond me to push those buttons, but it probably, maybe that's a solution that's kind of beyond the staff level to do.
But we have to, as a council, agree to go after Metro for this money. But the point is, if Metro is not going to sign off on it or give us money until Bensonville signs off, which I'm hearing, that to get the quiet zone, we have to have Bensonville on board and go into the jurisdiction, okay? Metro is probably going to say, oh, Bensonville ain't going to sign off on this. We don't have to worry about $400,000 for Wooddale because Bensonville ain't going to cooperate with it. I'm not saying that they won't, but I'd like to see that worked out first. That's it.
My question to you is, could you reach out to Bentonville and,
Yeah, I don't know what kind of formal
Just-
response, maybe, I don't want to put this on I could do it at a staff level. I don't know if it's something that you want to get their village manager on or mayor on board to say, yes, we'd be fine with extending it into your town. That would be if it was Ash Street only. If it's all the way through town, we don't have to worry about the half mile.
wait,
That's the main concern right now that the people have in this area is Ash Street. We could address the issue of adding the gates to the railroad crossing by, if it's a requirement, but our whole goal is even to move forward with the quiet zone, we have to get Bensonville on board.
okay.
I gotta follow.
Oh, you want to follow up? Okay. Mr. Mayor wants to follow up to a question of yours, so.
Chief, you just said if we do Ash only, but we're also working on Irving Park with the safety improvements. So if because we've got residents on both sides of Wooddale Road here tonight. So if we're doing Irving Park, Wooddale Road, and Ash, do we still need Bensonville, or we don't need Bensonville?
If we end up with the full jurisdiction, no, you wouldn't need Bensonville. The problem is if you end up with just Ash, based on the fact that we don't know where that final safety rating is gonna be at Irving and Wooddale. If we end up with just Ash, then you would need to get Bensonville's approval, because otherwise it would extend into it needs to extend to the east a little more to get a half mile.
And when it extends into Bensonville, it doesn't even extend to their first rail crossing, so that shouldn't be that big of a deal.
Basically,
them.
they would have to say it's okay to establish a quiet zone up to Route 83 is in that area.
Okay, that's right.
Alderman Woods?
Chief, what is the next logical step and monetary commitment we have to make? Obviously, we're not committing today to $1 million. What's the next step to take it to the next level, as you indicated Itasca's already at?
The $0 level would be is to try persuade Metra to fund that project. The probably next step up would be for staff and the city engineer to work on applying for a grant through the ICC. They do have a grant for this type of thing, but like I said, it does require more technical expertise probably. I don't know what that would cost, but engineering costs, you know, I'm sure it would be in the several $1,000 range, probably not astronomical. And then from there, we can't really do anything else until we know that those constant warning time devices are gonna be put in, because we could add a brick, short of closing the intersection, there's nothing, no other safety improvements we can do there until the constant warning time devices are put in the ground, that we have zero chance of approval unless those are done at the Ash Street crossing. So those have to get done, and the only way those can get done is if $0 Metra does it, engineer is able to get a grant, or the city were to fund that type of program.
Thank you.
You can't have a follow-up twice now. You gotta wait. Alderman Jacobs?
Couple questions. Well, first of all, I am a big supporter of this. I mean, I really do have to agree with Mrs. Adler. I mean, we want to make a nice downtown and improve the town and put a park there. You know, with the train noise there, I can't see people sitting outside having dinner or coffee or anything with all the train noise. We're spending a lot of money to improve the town, and, you know, I think, you know, it's gonna be money well spent, and the homeowners want it, and, you know, it's, a lot of homeowners complain in my ward, you know, not being able to sleep at night. For some reason, it is getting louder and louder. And I guess one question I had, is Bensonville nor Itasca, neither of them were at this meeting, or,
No, they weren't.
okay. But you're sure Itasca is moving forward?
Yes, I've talked to their chief
Okay.
over there, yeah.
And then you had said Bensonville, they're actually looking at shutting,
I guess I shouldn't speak for them, but I know that was an option, that's an option at Ash Street, is to shut Ash Street. But, so I know that was presented to Bensonville as an option. I don't know if Bensonville's going to. I just know that was part of an option. A less traveled street is to close it, and that's one of the things that the FRA lays out in my research that you can do is close some intersections or, you know, restrict traffic further. But, so I don't know if Bensonville's doing that, but I know it has been floated to them as an option.
I guess a final question, have we talked to the engineers to see what they feel it would cost to move to the next level?
No.
Okay. Thank you.
All good. One moment. Let the mayor do his response because he likes to raise his hand.
Chief, basically you said the engineering is needed to apply for the grant. Regardless, we have to do the engineering to do the quiet zone, correct? So it's not like money that's going to waste.
I guess if I could clarify, I've been on the grant website for the ICC, and from the requirements, it looks like there's some basic information that, you know, as staff, I would feel comfortable filling out, but it also requests some drawings as to what's currently going on there. You know, I don't know if they'd have to do full-scale drawings, but from what I read on it, more than I would feel comfortable in doing, I would feel comfortable that an engineer signed off that these are the conditions, this is the footages, this is the setbacks, you know, I wouldn't want to mess that up.
Right.
And feel that we'd probably want an engineer to finish the technical parts of the grant.
Okay, the resident. You gotta give your name and, you know, the name and address.
Go the drill.
Bill Adler, 188 North Central. I had a real important question for the chief.
Hang on one
in
moment.
fact.
Hang on one moment.
Sorry.
Did you get that? Okay, I'm sorry.
My wife brought this up the other night. In Arlington Heights, they have the no median going across, so. Now, what about emergency vehicles? If the train gates are down, but they can get across, because they have to get across because of an emergency fire or something like that, how does that work? I mean, you know,
What-
if you put a median in, then they can't get across either.
You'd have to commit to going the opposite side of the median prior to getting to where the median starts. So, what you'll see is, primarily with the fire department in town, you'll see it southbound Wooddale Road, is they'll come to that location. They won't disregard the train thing, but because you'll have, 4 lanes of traffic basically blocked up all the way back to Commercial, and the gates are down, they'll go into oncoming with their lights and siren going, wait for the train to clear and the gates to clear, and then they'll complete it in the opposite lane of traffic, that short little distance. So if it were at Ash Street, and we won't disregard the train gates. We won't, and it's just our
Just
policy.
a question, but, you
Yeah,
know,
but
that's
that,
just-
what you have to do is commit to that before you get to the median part. The median that would be required isn't that long. It's about 100 feet is the requirement, the basic requirement that they have.
Okay.
Which really is not that far.
Okay, that's all I have. Thank you.
Chief, with all that noise from the airplanes here, we got the trains. Who at the federal level, congressman or senator, well, we got our 2 senators, are on the committee for transportation that could get us some federal money as soon as they open up, if they ever open? Let's contact those people too. Next Thursday, I'm going to O'Hare for their runway opening, and I don't know where I'm going to end up, but I'm gonna try to hit some people over there and find out with the noise and stuff, and I'm sure there's some people there that's gonna be there, but maybe we could find out who's responsible for that.
Sure, in talking to, the ICC that was out, that's pretty tuned into available funding and all the other agencies, the only grant that they made me aware of was the ICC.
I'm
Now,
not-
residents contacting electeds or an elected official contacting the obviously, there's always avenues that way that could be explored too.
In return, didn't we get a petition from this before? I would like to submit the petition to the higher-ups of the elected officials too, if we could get that high. So, we still have that petition. I take it somewhere. Okay. I don't want you to do the work again. Okay, I guess that we got some more questions. Alderman Woods.
Chief, have we talked to the engineering firm to get an idea what that fee would be to complete, at least go for that grant?
No, I have not. I could get that figure.
Question to the city manager, since he's just sitting there. Do you have an idea, or have you discussed this at all with any of the engineers? Right now, we did the engineering for the intersection improvement, so that covers one intersection, if we're trying to encompass both. So the engineering really should be minimal at Ash Street, would be my
Yeah,
thought.
I have not spoken to them about this. To engineer the actual intersection, if we're gonna go out on our own without the grant and actually engineer it, I'd figure you'd need at least 10% of the cost of the 400 grand, but to do the grant component of it, I don't know, maybe we're talking 5 grand, between 5 and 10 maybe, on the high end, I don't know. Maybe that's a bad guess.
Right. Well, either one is, in my mind, acceptable. I mean, I think we need to keep moving forward. So it's a good thing if we get the grant, and it's a good thing, as Alderman Wesley pointed out, if we can talk to the congressmen or senators and get money, the problem with that is they usually want information. And the more ready you are with the project and the more information you have, the easier it is to get an answer from those people or get money appropriated for those things. So I would make a motion to move forward, and maybe we make the dollar amount 20,000, because Jeff doesn't know if 5 is the number, to expend up to $20,000 to at least get the grant process going. And that would be my motion.
I would second that motion.
Well, we've got a motion, we got a second. We're still gonna go do some questions here, but we got motions up there, so let's do the roll call on the motion.
No. I have a question on the motion.
Oh, you got a question on the motion? Okay, what's your question on the motion?
My question on the motion is that your 20,000 is that counting to do, get an engineer to look at that, or is that just to submit the paperwork?
Well, that would be the engineer to do whatever technical data or analysis or
To
minimal
design or-
sketching, not to,
Sketching? No,
no, not to
sketching.
design the whole intersection, but whatever sketching and engineering input they would need to fill out the other part that the chief was saying he's uncomfortable with. You know, that number might be 5,000, I don't know what it is, I don't want to argue over it 7,000 or 10,000. I think that in general, most people want to move forward, and being that we are going to build up the downtown area and we're expending quite a few dollars and redoing things, it just only makes sense to make this one of the things on the list.
Could you add to that motion that we sent a letter to Metro saying that we would like this on our top priority to get this a quiet zone? Have staff send them a letter?
I would accept that. If the seconder accepts it.
Yes.
I thought I was supposed to ask that.
Go ahead.
Okay, forget it.
Jeff's got his hand up for the.
Right, okay, go ahead,
I-
city manager, go
Maybe-
ahead.
Maybe we can just speed it up. I mean, you know, staff's got some authority up to 10. If you're comfortable up to 20, what we can do, we think it'll be less than 10. If it's less than 10, we move forward. More than 10, we're gonna come back to council for final approval anyway in a couple of weeks. So we guess it'd be under 10, so likely we'll have the ball rolling. If not, it's gonna come back to you anyway.
I take you would still like a vote from this council, so.
Yeah.
Sure, it's gonna come back to you again, though. so-
I don't want it to
Yeah.
stall because it comes out to 11.5, though. That was my intent. I know that you're okay up to 10.
What are you looking at him for? It's my committee.
Well, he was looking at me.
But you're raising your hand for me, right? So, okay.
Well, again, it's probably gonna have to stall anyway. I mean, the committee's just a recommending body to the council, so I don't have authority until the council takes action for more than 10.
Okay, well, we'll go higher here.
Me? Am I good now?
You're good, go ahead.
Jeff, quick question. Being that we are developing downtown, could we use tourism dollars for this? Would this be something we can do? I know that we do have the commuter fund lot money that I just texted Mr. Wilson over there, and he texted me back. We have about 150,000 in there that we can use as well. Is that money we can use? I mean, this will be questions.
Are you a Boy Scout?
Go ahead.
Okay, go.
I'd feel more comfortable using the tourism dollars. We're always looking for a good way to spend tourism, so. Tourism would be best.
Okay.
I just don't, my opinion, I don't think
Wesley?
you can use the Metro money for that communal parking lot for that, because that's got paid for the project that's been ongoing to maintain that parking lot. I don't think you could take that money. I thought that was, because we borrow for that train station.
That's why I said tourism would be best.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, we got a motion, we got a second, but we're still gonna do a roll call here, because I know you're over, if we go over 10, I want you to keep going here. Roll call.
Alderman Lazara. Yes. Alderman Jacob.
Yes.
Alderman Winger.
Yes.
Alderman Catalano.
Yes.
Alderman Roy Wesley.
Yes.
Alderman Woods.
Absolutely.
Alderman Eugene Wesley.
Yes.
Okay, that motion passes. Right, this with the letter. Greg, you're still gonna contact and finding out who is in charge at the federal level for the handling the money for transportation,
Absolutely.
so,
Yeah, we have our direction.
okay. And that's the end of that report, correct, Greg?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Items to be considered at future meetings. Any?
There's some things.
Okay. Motion for adjournment,
Second.
all in favor? Aye. I oppose? No, I don't. Motion carries. No, anyone opposed? No, okay.
Motion now.
Motion carries.
Don't be strangers. Don't be strangers. We know you love it up here. There's a nice warm seat for you right there.
Okay, I'll call the Planning, Zoning, and Building Committee to order. Let the record show that all the same aldermen are here. I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of meeting September 12th, 2013.
Make that motion.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Report and recommendation, case number 13-V2 and 13-Z1, Jack Holtz re-subdivision, 5 North 012 Wooddale Road. Mr. Forrest or Jennifer, which one is?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, we'll have Jennifer Hennigan do a presentation. I also believe the attorney is here for the J.S. Colt, so
Okay.
take it away, Jennifer.
Thank you. The petitioner is here tonight to discuss a requested rezoning from the R1 district to the R2 district. Originally, they had requested some lot variations as well, but they have since withdrawn the request for the lot variations since the time that this memo was put together. So tonight, all they're requesting is that rezoning from R1 to R2. It was considered at the September Community Development Commission meeting. At that time, there was no recommendation. Their motion to approve failed 2-2 with 1 abstention, so they weren't able to get a majority of the votes either for or against the rezoning. Staff's initial recommendation was for denial, but that was based largely on the requested variations. Our code requires that variations meet certain standards as well as demonstrate a hardship, and staff didn't feel that that was met. However, with that being withdrawn now, it's a little bit different since they're only requesting rezoning. The Unified Development Ordinance does not have specific standards for rezoning, so it's really just a policy question for the council to consider what sort of zoning would they like in that area. I guess I'll leave the discussion at that. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer those.
Alderman Roy Wesley.
With rezoning, how many houses could you put on that lot?
He would be able to do up to 2, the existing house plus 1 new house.
So I gotta make myself clear here, because last time I was here about the annexing here, it wasn't, maybe I didn't make myself clear on my questions, but I'm gonna make clear this time. There's 1 house there already,
Correct.
So the only thing that they'll be able to put there is one more house.
Yes, if the rezoning is denied, they can't do anything. If the rezoning is approved, they can put one additional house. Yes, they will need to come in for a plat of re-subdivision if the rezoning is approved before they can construct that additional house.
Okay. Thank you.
Mayor, please.
Jennifer, I'm looking at this picture you've got here. That shows 1, 2, and 3.
Yes, that was the old exhibit from when they were requesting the lot depth variations, so that no longer applies. It would be the existing house and then have room for one additional house to the north, between them and their neighbor to the north.
Alderman Roy Wesley.
Jennifer, when was the request to rezone? Was it Monday, Tuesday?
I received it on Monday. I believe it came in on Friday, Friday afternoon. I got it on Monday.
So you got it Monday morning?
Mhm.
You know where I'm going, Mr. Manager. Why couldn't we get a new,
Mr. Murmas.
Yeah, I know where you're going, you're gonna yell at me.
I'm not, you know,
Sorry.
It's what he does.
I just want to know why we couldn't get a new picture or,
Sorry.
okay.
I would mention that they haven't prepared a new exhibit because they're not requesting the re-subdivision today.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
So if today, and I think that this is Alderman Wesley's concern, if we allow the change in zoning from R1 to R2, that in and of itself doesn't stop them from coming back 3 weeks from now, once they got R2, to change it to 2 more lots. Does it?
If that were the case, they would need to go back through the public hearing process to CDC, PZB, and council to request additional variations.
Okay.
Even with the R2 zoning, they wouldn't have room for 3 lots total.
Alderman Roy Wesley?
The question is, if they build another house on this lot, are they gonna, I'm sure it's up to them, how are they gonna get water? Or would they have to come to the city asking permission for a new, what do they call these things that, like recapture agreement?
Mr. Forrest?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Actually, the questions you were asking at this point are not relevant for what's being requested tonight. What they're requesting tonight is the single lot, which is basically that one lot plan of annexation that you got in your packet a few weeks ago. They're requesting to rezone that one lot from R1 to R2, period. Now, if at some point in the future, they would decide they would want to subdivide that lot because R2 would allow them to create 2 lots there without seeking a variation, at that point, the questions you're asking would be more relevant.
I have to
Go ahead.
have to jump in here. So this was kind of my question before, and I think the concern of the residents opposed and some of the people on the council. So if we give them the R2 and split their single lot into 2, did you just tell me that they could take that second lot and without a variance, divide that into 2? That's what it sounded like you said. Mr. Forrest?
No, to clarify, the single lot of record that was annexed a few weeks ago, you got that lot, shows one lot. They're requesting rezoning that lot from R1 to R2. Now, if 2 weeks or 3 weeks from now, they would like to subdivide that into 2 lots, because R2 would allow 2 lots to be created out of that one lot that exists today. They could create 2 lots without any variations. If they wanted to create 3 lots, then they would need variations.
But Are we talking about the lot today, or if the R2 was approved? That's where I'm lost.
Whichever.
Yeah, basically, today with the R1, they're allowed what they have, one single lot. R2 would allow them to split it in half.
Okay. So simply put. Mayor, please.
John, or Jennifer, whoever wants to answer this, we've got this lot width, lot depth. R2 is 80 feet by 125, proposed is 92 by 80, and they're showing the square footage and whatnot. But I'm looking at the map, which should have the correct measurements, and the lot that the house is on is 92 feet, and the next lot is 95 feet. Basically, that's 187, 188 feet wide. And if we're going deep, we're looking at 200-foot depth. Why 92 and 80? Why wouldn't it be a 200-foot lot by 92, or, I'm confused at the numbers.
Mr. Forrest.
Again, I hate to keep saying this, but this exhibit is no longer relevant. We don't have a new exhibit because it hasn't been prepared and presented yet. Again, the question before you tonight is the single lot of record where we completed the annexation 2 weeks ago, that you got a copy of, that shows one lot.
Right.
They're asking to rezone that from R1 to R2. They're not asking for any subdivision. They're not asking theoretically up in the future, can we get 2 lots? Can we get 3 lots? Can we get 12 lots? It's just, will you consider rezoning this one lot from R1 to R2?
Okay, let me jump in here. So I think we're good with R1 to R2. They only get 2 lots out of the package. That's everybody's concern. As you've said a couple times, some of these other items really are not relevant to this conversation today. That being said, I would make a motion to approve the rezoning of the R1 to R2, and with the stipulation that the corrected, do we have a corrected? Does somebody have a corrected one that they could see by the council meeting next week as an exhibit? So that's some of the.
May I be heard, Mr. Chairman?
Sure, Mr. Zubak.
Thank you. For the record, my name is Marshall Subak. I represent the petitioner. Maybe if I try to clarify the procedural a little bit. We had applied before for 2 different things. One was the rezoning of the property from R1 to R2. And then secondarily, we applied for a subdivision, initially as a 4-lot subdivision. And then we modified that to a 3-lot subdivision with some variances to get 3 lots. After the last meeting of the CDC and hearing the comments from both the CDC and some of the public who came, we decided, it was on Friday, we withdrew the request for the 3-lot subdivision. We're not proceeding forward on the 3-lot subdivision. We withdrew the request for the variance and just said, we're gonna go forward simply on the rezoning of the property from R1 to R2. We're not trying to play any games. We're not trying to pull a rabbit out of our hat. We are simply seeking to rezone the property from R1 to R2. I do have a presentation prepared if the chairman would allow me to speak longer. Jennifer is correct that the UDA doesn't provide standards, but there is there's an Illinois case on it. It's called the LaSalle factors that the Supreme Court laid out that this board is supposed to consider when deciding whether or not to rezone the property from R1 to R2. And I think I can have sufficient.
How long do you think the presentation?
First, do you want the bear score or you don't want the bear score? Is it
No
take-
bear score.
Okay, I won't give it a bear score. I could probably be done in 10 minutes.
Okay, go ahead.
So,
Can I ask my question?
Alderman Wesley, go ahead, ask a question.
John, the recapture for the water, you said it's irrelevant, which I agree with you. Is this if they do run city water, does it come back to the city council to do that?
Mr. Forrest?
If in the future, the property, if the city council grants the rezoning to R2, that would allow the owner of the property to come in requesting a subdivision of 2 lots without needing any variations. If you were to go ahead and grant that subdivision, creating 2 lots of record, before he could build on that second lot, he would have to bring city water to that lot, because the city does not allow new private wells to be drilled within the city limits. The existing home was built under the county, while it was still unincorporated, under county regulations, the county allowed them to put in a private well.
So, can I go on?
Go ahead, Mr. Wesley.
So my question, what you're saying about re-subdividing or rezoning this, it is relevant because this council won't have they won't have a vote on the recapture agreement. And then these houses, I don't think there's any empty lots over there left. But the recapture agreements in some of these areas are ridiculous. Some people can't even build a house on the lots, and we're going to have these vacant land, a lot empty because the interest on these things.
Well, again, all those things are true, but they're not something that we can have any control over today or that are guiding any of the decisions we're making today. I understand what you're saying.
But we won't have a vote on.
Right, but you
on
can't,
that.
you can't hold that against them to get a lot, something that may or may not happen down the road. That's all I'm saying. Mr. Zubak, go ahead.
Thank you. Again, the property's at 5N012 Wooddale Road. It is formally annexed into the city of Wooddale. I don't think we've gotten a new address yet, as it just happened last week. My client signed a pre-annexation agreement back in 2008. I'm going to say for the record, through no fault of staff, through no fault of the petitioner, the formal annexation didn't get done until last week. That was just a simple misunderstanding between staff and the petitioner as to the procedural aspects that were supposed to happen after he got occupancy from the county. The original plan was to bring water to this property and actually loop it to Elizabeth. That's why we originally requested the 4-lot subdivision. It didn't go over well with staff or the CDC, so we narrowed it down to 3 lots. That also, with some variances, that was not well received. The CDC did vote on the zoning from R1 to R2, and they voted 2 to 1, which is a no recommendation. So this board just simply needs to give a simple majority to allow for the rezoning. After discussing with staff and my client, they agreed to withdraw the request for the 3-lot subdivision. So we're only tonight seeking rezoning from R1 to R2. We're not seeking 3 lots. We're not seeking a variance. The property is R1 right now because any property that comes into the city comes in as R1 automatically. It's not preset at R1. It just comes in as R1. The property, and I passed out the plat of annexation, is 190 feet wide, and it's 283 feet deep. What's interesting is there's an exception for, his deed is for 283 feet. There's an exception for Wooddale Road. If it's widened, then he loses that front for the county. They haven't done it yet, so the 69 feet in the front is accepted from that. So really, the lot is 214 feet deep. If we take off that road portion, the lot itself is 40,059 square feet, or about 0.92 of an acre. Now, under the city code that was in place, this is actually fascinating stuff. Before the UDA was adopted, under the old zoning code, some of us would argue the old stuff was better than that UDA. We meet the R1 requirements. Under the old R1 requirements, all you needed was a lot to be 15,000 square feet and have 100 foot of frontage across the front. When somebody adopted, or city council adopted the UDA all of a sudden said, hey, R1 is still 15,000 square feet and 100 foot of frontage, but now you need 150 of depth. So it all of a sudden put this new requirement to have the depth of a lot. It didn't matter that maybe the lot was very wide, such as this lot. The unique piece of this lot is because Brookhurst is along the back, if he does decide to go forward, and I'm not going to hide anything, we are looking to do eventually a 2-lot subdivision, he has the option to either cut it this way or you could cut it this way. It fits either way under the R2 zoning. Under the old code, you met the R1 zoning requirements. Either way you cut it, because you had that 15,000 square feet of square footage. It's a large lot. If this was ever subdivided into 2 lots, you would get 2 20,000 square foot lots, which I don't think anybody would ever say that's a bad sized lot. So the factors, again, are these LaSalle factors. And the first one, and I would mention that the comprehensive plan supports this lot as being either R1 or R2. It just says it's supposed to be single-family residential, low density. That's met by the R1, the R2, and the R3. If you could, the next slide I want to take a look at is the zoning map for Wooddale.
Do you have, or you want me to change them?
No, what? You still don't want the bear score? Okay. No, I can walk. So for, this is the area right here. It's hard to see on that board, but it's white because the map hasn't been updated. Now, one of the factors that the LaSalle case says look at is, look at the zoning map and see what the zoning is around the area. The lots along the golf course are R1, and those are large estate lots. Across the street, you have R1, but that hasn't been developed. That got passed as R1, but unfortunately, the developer was never able to move forward. The other portion of that across the street is still unincorporated. Part of it was snagged by the village of, or Bensonville Park District, who recently put a sign up saying Bensonville Park District for that property. So that's off the tax rolls. No benefit to Wooddale, no benefit to us taxpayers in Wooddale either. And then the other properties around here, this is all R3, this is R3, over here you have R2. So from the first factor of what's in the existing area, it's R1 and R2. Now, I know there was some concern from some of the unincorporated residents that are along Wooddale Road that said if you make this R2, you're going to all of a sudden, across the street, you're going to force your hand R2. It's going to have, this is all going to have to be R2. Personally, I don't think that would be bad if that came in as R2. Maybe it would get developed. Maybe it would help some of the flooding issues that are going on in Cedar Avenue. Because right now, with the status quo, nothing's happening there other than other taxing bodies are buying that property and taking it off the tax roll. But you're not going to be restricted. Just because you make this lot R2 doesn't mean you have to make that across the street R2. You could easily say that across the street, those lots along Wooddale Road are going to be R2, and those lots in the back are going to be R1. You have a lot of flexibility what you could do across the street to promote development there. The next factor you're supposed to look at is whether or not granting of the zoning is going to diminish property values in the area. And I certainly would say to you that granting the R2 is not going to diminish the property values in the area. It's actually going to increase the property values because you're going to have the chance to have another new home built in Wooddale, which raises the housing stock, adds to the tax rolls, brings the new residents into town, new families that hopefully shop at Target, spend dollars at Target, and brings new houses. That's all a positive growth for Wooddale. Again, with the R2, my client would have the opportunity to subdivide the lot with no variances. It would meet all the requirements of R2. The last slide I want you to take a look at is the other properties that are along Wooddale Road. And that one's really hard to see up there, I'm sorry. But on the map that I handed out to you, now my client did this off of Google Maps. And was able to, because unfortunately, when you look at the plat book, not all the lots, the dimensions of the lots are not on the plat book. But you can see my client's lot there. If you look all the way to the property line, it's 190 by 283. That goes all the way to Wooddale Road. To be consistent, he took the dimensions along Wooddale Road for all these. So if you look at the first house to the north, who I think it is incorporated into the city of Wooddale. His lot is 77 by 264. So if you make that lot R1, it actually doesn't even meet the requirements of R1. It more likely fits the requirement, actually, it doesn't even meet the requirements of R2, to be honest. But it meets the square footage. The next property, which is unincorporated, that is 108 by 240. Again, a 25,000 square foot lot. With this R2, you would have two lots potentially at 20,000 square feet. Again, very comparable. The next lot is probably the largest on there, that's next to my client's, 43,000 square feet, and that is 190 by 229. That meets the R1 requirements as well as R2. Then the last lot is the one on the corner. Again, that lot is 150 on one side, 215 across the front, but as you go further north, it narrows pretty quickly. So I don't know if that lot would meet the R1 or R2 requirements. So again, there's not a fear either by doing R2 that all of a sudden you're going to make a rush of new houses, that these are all going to get torn down and double the amount of houses. Most of these would not be able to be subdivided under the R2 zoning if they ever got subdivided or brought into the city in the future. The next factor is the relative gain to the public as opposed to the hardship. The hardship for my client is if he doesn't get the R2 zoning, he's stuck with one house and basically a large 20,000 square foot vacant lot next to his property, which is of no benefit to him and really no benefit to the city because you're not going to get that increased assessed value. The benefit to the residents in the area is, yes, water, if he does subdivide, would be brought closer to the residents over there. It wouldn't be looped to the other system, and there would be no requirement that anybody else taps in to that water, so they're not forced to have it. But anytime you talk to anybody in the fire district or anybody on, who doesn't have water that wants it, anytime it gets closer to the residents, it makes it a benefit. The other benefit is if this does spark development across the street, it is going to help some of the area of Ward 1. You have really bad flooding problems, as the two aldermen know from Ward 1, along Cedar Avenue. You have it along Iroquois. Part of that problem is because the water that flows from the forest preserve right now, or the vacant land, goes right on to Cedar Avenue, and there's no detention over there. If across the street ever gets developed, it doesn't have to be R2, it could be R1 and R2. You'd get some detention, would get some flood relief over there. The next factor is the suitability of the subject property for the zoning. Again, the highest and best use for this property is residential. The next factor is the length time the property has been vacant. This property has been vacant since 2006 when it was purchased, correct? But I also will tell you, look across the street, how long that's been vacant. That's been vacant for a long time because you just don't have that spark of development yet, but hopefully it'll come in the future. The next factor the courts look at is the care in which the city is undertaking its planned land use. Is the city doing spot zoning is what the issue is in here. Again, to have R2 zoning along Wooddale Road, have R1 behind it is consistent with the lot sizes, and it's not spot zoning and would be confirmed if anybody ever challenged in court. The next factor is the community need for the proposed use. We need new houses. We want houses to be built. We want our new houses to be more money than the existing houses. That's how you raise values of these houses in the entire community. So I would ask for your support to rezone the property from R1 to R2. And if you have any questions, I'm willing to answer them.
Is there a chance that the public can speak, or just,
That's a petitioner.
may I speak?
Yeah, you can,
It's,
you have to go to the podium and give your name and address.
Thank you for the opportunity of speaking. My name is Fred Pruitt. I'm at 5NO80 Wooddale Road, 2 or 3 homes down from Stanley's home and residence. We've been here many times in objection to their proposals, which started at 4 homes that they wanted to build. We objected because of various reasons of water and overdevelopment, changing the neighborhood, et cetera. They've since moved from 4 to 3, which was objected to, and they've stopped and back to 2. This R2 rezoning, the way I understand it, would be taking the 1 lot to 2 R2 lots. And he said that they could subdivide those at a later date, which would be back to 4. So our objection as neighbors, and I represent all the neighbors adjacent to him, which represents 10 homes. Most of them are in the Wooddale area, okay, they're residents. And they feel that his intention is to go back again to the 4 homes. We're not objecting to 2 homes if the property is written that way, where it's clearly stated that there would be only 2 homes, not 2 R2s that could be converted to 4. The original idea was to have 2 homes on Brookhurst and 2 homes on Wooddale Road. They're saying now there'd be 2 homes on Wooddale Road, is that correct? Each one an R2? If the 2 lots are each R2, and you could subdivide them at a later date here, that goes back to the 4 homes they tried to do in the beginning. Now, one other statement. Why would the city entertain giving this man water when none of the Wooddale residents have water? There are 5 or 6 homes in Wooddale that have no city water. Why would you consider giving them the opportunity of having water when no one else has it? And if they can't go ahead with this without the city water, and they can't go with a well, how could you let them have 2 R2 zones without the city water? Who pays for it? And if you pay for him for 2 lots, what about your other residents in Wooddale? So very simply, I'm saying something is wrong. If this R2 gets passed, can you make it clear that it's only 2 homes forever? Not maybe they can come back in 6 months and resubmit to get more homes. Because their intention always has been to build the 4 homes. I represent all of the neighbors in my neighborhood, and this is how they feel. 2 homes, period, would be nice. It would fit the neighborhood. But think about who's going to pay for the water. That I don't understand. So, is there any questions on my behalf?
You know, thank you for your statements.
Okay, thank you for the opportunity.
No problem. Mr. Forrest, did you want to, you had your hand up, you wanted to?
Yes, I just want to clarify, because I think you're misunderstanding what we're voting on tonight. Again, if this property were zoned to the R2, that would allow 2 lots right now, period. If in the future he wanted to come in and try and get additional lots, he would have to start again at the Community Development Commission. It would have to come to the City Council, and part of that subdivision would be he would be requesting variations. Variations do not have to be granted by the Community Development Commission. Variations do not have to be granted by the City Council. So they could be turned down at that level.
I'm just stating that this is a game, and the game is to get the R2 approved to 2 lots, so they can come back later and pursue going to 4.
But they can't, I mean, they can come back.
I know you can't do it right now.
Okay, Mr. Brunner, you'd have to step, we can't hold a debate out there between you and the director. I think you got your point across, and I hope that you understand what Mr. Forrest said. What you're saying is correct. Ultimately, if everything went their way, they could get 3. Well, not really, because there's already a house.
But that's on 1/4 of the lot.
Right, but it also, there's other issues, the way they said it. So 3 would probably be the most that they could get, but that would have to go through the process and be approved also. There's nothing,
But the 3 has already been rejected.
Right, but we're not talking about 3. I can't argue about something that may or may not happen in the future, I guess is, I understand your point, though. Thank you. Mr. Force?
Again, just quickly, they are saying theoretically, they may come back and want to do 2 lots. They could do 2 lots without seeking any variations. Anytime you come in for a subdivision that's going to require variation, that has to go through the entire procedure, has to go in front of 3 boards, and those variations can be turned down. So even though they can come and ask for it, it's certainly their right as a property owner to ask for it, doesn't mean it's going to be granted. As far as the cost of the water installation, if in the future they decide that they would like to build an additional house there, they would be required to bring the water in, that would be on their nickel. The city's not going to pay to install and run that water line. Would be solely their cost. Yes, because the Wooddale does not allow new private water wells. So if a new house is going to be constructed, it has to be supplied by city water.
Mr. Zubak?
We are not seeking 3 lots tonight. I don't foresee my client seeking 3 lots in the future. We've been down that path, and we heard the votes of the CDC and heard comments from staff and the surrounding neighbors that they're not in favor of 3 lots. So it's not a game. It's the residents or non-residents were heard, and we got the message loud and clear that 3 lots was not going to, I needed a supermajority to get 3 lots, and I didn't think I had the votes for a supermajority. So being a quality attorney, I told my client, you need to withdraw that request and go for the R2, which will give you 1 additional lot. We'll be able to split this lot into 2. It can't go to 3 without variances. I tried my best to draw it all different ways, and it can't get to 3 without a variance. You can't restrict any property owner from saying you can't apply in the future. People can apply for anything, but it doesn't mean it's going to be granted. So again, it's not a game. We understand we're just going from the R1 to R2. And you will see in the future a petition for subdivision for 2 lots with no variances because we meet the R2 requirements. Not to mention we meet the old R1 requirements as stated before the UDA was passed.
Okay, so let me just interject one. I'm going to renew, I don't think we got a second. I'm going to renew the motion to change the zoning from R1, grant the zoning from R1 to R2. Do I have a second?
Second that motion.
Okay, questions? Roy Wesley.
I'm going back to my water thing. I'm still stuck on this because there's other properties along that, if their well goes bad, they gotta connect into city water. Is there other houses that are annexed into the city of Wooddale on that block from where the water line is?
This one's the next in. They have water. No, they have. Go ahead.
The property immediately to the north was annexed.
Okay, so if their well went bad, they would have to have city water.
The way our code is structured, yes. I
That's
mean,
a-
if they can replace their pump, they can maintain their existing well. But if the well dries out, they would not be allowed to install a new well. If water was there and available, they would have to hook up.
That's where my problem comes in. Some of these recapture agreements are, I know it doesn't apply here, what you're saying, but I have a problem of doing this when we don't have an ordinance here. Maybe the city could pay for it, the water line, and do it. I don't know, a couple months ago, or maybe a month ago, I brought it up about have city staff come up with some ideas about these recapture agreements, something, I don't know what, because we have lots that, the recapture agreements are $40,000-$50,000, again, and then these people if their well goes bad, they gotta come up possibly with $60,000 to get city water, you're gonna kick them right out of their house. We gotta come up with another way, and we gotta come with it fast. So I want to make a motion to table until we come up with with some idea on this.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Opposed.
Okay.
Motion fails.
So,
Mr. Chairman?
Let me just interject one thing, and I have the same concern. I'd like to move forward, I'd like to divide the lots. That is an issue, legitimate, although it doesn't really have any relevance to what we're talking about, but in some respects it does. But to answer, or help maybe answer Mr. Wesley's concern, if these people didn't divide the lot, if they didn't bring the water down the road, spend all that capital and create the recapture agreement, and somebody else's well failed, they would have to bring the water all the way down the road, which would probably cost them $150,000 to $200,000. So if they did nothing, the cost would be at least double, probably triple what it is. Could, Mr. Forrest?
I would have to go back and research through the municipal code, but I believe there is a distance factor in there. If the water's within a certain distance, then you would be required to hook up, and if it exceeds that distance, then you'd be able to fix your well, I suppose. I would have to get back to you on that, though, with
Okay.
a little more accurate interpretation. I apologize.
So, maybe we, Mayor Police.
John, I think that's 300 feet, if I remember right, within 300. But I know what Alderman Wesley's concern is, because some of these recapture fees, they're tacked on with 8 to 9% interest per year, and that's to the person who puts it in, and then I think there's another 5 or 6% to the city. I mean, we're talking astronomical numbers. I know what he's talking about, because we've got 3 of them, and all 3 of those sections and groups of people are all complaining. How do I tap into that? It's ridiculous. I see the concern. We would prefer to stop it. But the 2 lots, as far as the 2 lots go, are both houses going to be on Wooddale Road, or one going to be on Brookhurst, and the other one doesn't matter? I mean, I'm just curious.
Mr. Forrest.
Well, again, we can talk about this for quite some time.
Right.
And I agree with the chairman. In a way, this is kind of relevant, but again, for what's being presented tonight, it's not relevant.
Right.
They're asking for 1 lot, the zoning to be changed. I have to agree with Alderman Roy Wesley. We have some recapture agreements out there that are putting quite a burden on anybody who would want to build on a vacant property. We can't go back and fix those. None of those have been done within the last 7, 8, 9 years. They're all, older than that. If we were to do new recapture agreements, we would have to seriously consider making them or keeping them, putting them together in such a way where it's not going to be cost prohibitive. Just to clarify your statement, there is typically an interest rate that's charged per year, and the city's 5 or 6%, that is not an additional 5% or 6% per year. That would be a 5 or 6% of the total that would be collected at the end. It's more of a servicing fee, that type of thing, because the city is charged in collecting those fees and then distributing it to the party that put the water line in. Alderman Wesley and I have spoken about this several times, whether the city should just assume the responsibility of installing the water lines and getting the money back, or working out a little more of a fair way to do a recapture agreement. Alderman Woods is in the building business. He knows that it's very expensive to install public utilities like that, and it's only fair that if new people tie on to the line that you paid to put in, you get reimbursed, for their share of it. Is there a more equitable way to do it? We'll have to search and put something together.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman?
Hang on one second. Alderman Winger, did you have a question? Okay. Yeah, there's a motion on the floor with a second. I'm going to take a roll call vote on this.
Alderman Lazara.
No.
Alderman Jacob.
Yes.
Alderman Winger.
Yes.
Alderman Catalano.
Yes.
Alderman Roy Wesley.
Abstain.
Alderman Woods.
Yes.
Alderman Eugene Wesley.
Motion carries. Thank you, John, Jennifer. 5, report and recommendation, Euler Consulting proposal for clock tower and intersection improvements. Ms. Hennigan, are you taking that?
These are two proposals following up from the Euler downtown plan that was approved by this committee earlier this summer. The first proposal is to do schematic designs for the clock tower elements. As you'll recall, that was the very tall structure that was proposed to be where the wind sculptures are now at the northwest corner of Irving Park and Wooddale Roads. Euler is proposing to develop 3 designs for the city to choose from, and then once we make that choice, they would do construction documents so we could get that out to bid. That proposal is for up to $7,500. The second separate proposal is for Euler to coordinate with HR Green and IDOT on the Wooddale and Irving Park Road intersection improvements. This would have them take a look at those plans and see how the downtown plan recommendations could be incorporated into that to ensure that we're moving forward with implementation, and that would be for up to $4,200.
So, let me get one quick question in. Jennifer, so that would be to do the monument/clock tower thing, 7,500, and then to incorporate some of the concepts into the intersection via the medians, plantings, trees, all those other things that we discussed, is 4,200, so that would be 11,700
Correct.
collectively or together. Okay. Alderman Eugene Wesley.
Okay, I understand, what account is this coming out of? I never got my response. So someone care answer that money? Is it coming out Streetscape Committee? Is it coming out, tourism? Where's this money coming from? Because this wasn't a budget item at this time.
Mr. Murmas.
I promised Finance Director Wilson that he'd be able to answer this question. He's dying to answer it, so if he can come up here and answer it. He's been waiting all day.
As always, it would be a pleasure.
Because I was waiting for the email for that, and I did not receive that.
You made his night, just so you know.
Let the record reflect Mr. Murmas has entered, or Mr. Wilson has entered the building.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First time on the new mics. I did speak with Alderman Woods on this, I think it was on Tuesday as well. Both of these projects ultimately are going to come out of the Capital Projects Fund because the landscaping is going to be incorporated in the grade separation program, the landscaping through that area. And then the tower, eventually based on the schematic drawings that they provide, is going to be put into the CIP theoretically this winter for presentation in January or February. So based upon that and the way the accounting would have to work for those to keep those costs all in the same silo, it would make sense just right from the beginning to put those costs into the capital, into the CIP and account within the CIP to pay for them out of there to properly track them through their lives as they're going to go across multiple fiscal years.
Alderman Eugene Wesley.
So the money is going to come out of the CIP project, which this was not listed in the CIP project, I don't think. And the other part is coming out, you say it's coming out, what fund?
The same one.
Both of them are coming out of CIP?
Correct, because the grade separate, the safety improvements is coming out of the capital fund. There's the grant that we're getting back that HR Green's helping us get the money back from. But the funding for that, the seed money for that is coming out of the CIP program. And then the tower itself would also ultimately wind up coming out of the CIP.
But I don't think I don't think the grant money was earmarked to be used for that, though. I would have to revisit that.
Correct, that would be our money that we would be spending on that, because I don't think we're gonna get the grant money back for the landscaping. But it is part of that project, so just to cost out that entire project, it would need to be in the same account to get an accurate representation of what that whole project
Was
cost.
this in the CIP? Yes or no?
No.
Thank you.
Alderman Christine Winger?
Thank you. I'm not opposed to moving forward with both efforts. However, Jennifer, can you take us through whether there's an independence between the two and the intersection work? So could we conceivably do the 4,200 coordination efforts and then look at planning out the clock tower after the fact, after the intersection is underway? Would that be a better way of doing it, to first move forward on the coordination and then look at the clock tower down the road?
Ms. Hennigan?
Yes, they are two separate proposals, so the council could approve one or the other tonight, and, you know, if we want to ask Euler to come back later with the clock tower, or that would be fine.
Okay, thank you.
Hang on one second. Alderman Woods. Oh, that's me. One of the things that we always ask as the council is that everything be coordinated, and now we want to we've been trying to do that. The cry is always coordinate between the engineers and the designers so that we don't do double work, and now we're trying to take those things apart. It's a minimal amount of money, $7,500 and the $4,200 to get through, and this council's passed much more than this for much lesser projects in the future. I personally would argue to keep them together and keep moving forward. I would make a motion to move forward with both the $7,500 for the design of the monument clock tower and the $4,200 for the plantings and working with the intersection. That is my motion.
Second.
Mayor, please.
Jennifer, when Mr. Euler goes and designs the clock tower, is he just bringing us a clock tower, or is he going to bring us two or three different, maybe 4 different items? Do we know?
There will
Ms.
be
Hennigan.
3.
3, perfect. And I agree with the project.
Mr. Jacob.
I just had one question about the old clock tower. Is Euler going to decide where that goes, or is that city council, or does that have anything to do with the new clock tower?
I'll jump in. I don't think that it does. Our intent is, if possible, to reuse it. We haven't figured out a place for that yet, nor do I think that Euler has thought about it, but I'm sure that, given that we have it, that we'll try to incorporate it in somewhere as soon as possible. That being said, Mr. Murmas.
Yeah, the one other thing for the council, kind of think of it as the Lakota plan, both for the corporate Main Street and the sign program. They kind of present a couple different, ideas for you, like a selection package, and then you select which one is your favorite. So it's similar to what Lakota Group is doing, is what you guys.
Thank you. Alderman Eugene Wesley.
I'm not against this project, believe me, but the point is, we're taking money out of a CIP project that hasn't been budgeted for. It wasn't in the budget, so we're taking money out of the account. You know what? CIP, there's residents out there on the street lights, and well, why don't we just tell them come forward and we'll take the street lights out of CIP projects through. Problem is, the reason we put a budget together, we try to stick together with our CIP project and fund it the way we are. But you know what? You might well have every citizen come in there and say, we want street lights, and we'll make a motion on the floor, take out CIP. That ain't a budget item. I mean,
So are there more residents that want a street light? Because we'll entertain it.
Yeah, there are.
Well, then have them fill out the paperwork and bring it
Paperwork's
forward.
in.
And did we not approve those, the ones on Itasca?
No, I ain't talking about the one in Dasco, but now we got South Cedar came, we got people that want sidewalks that we denied because it wasn't our CIP. I mean, let's look at it. We put in our budget, CIP budget, and let's look at it. I'm just saying, if we're going to keep doing projects out of the CIP, if it ain't budget, then you might well put the sidewalk in If someone, and there's a petition that was filled out for a sidewalk that we denied it, our CIP, but now we're gonna spend this right now, not a budget item. I can't look at that.
But it's not like we can push this off another year, because that window will be closed, and it'll cost us quadruple the amount to do it.
But the grade separation's already been pushed back already, so. Are we going to
This
start the
is-
budget come January?
This isn't going to push it back. Mr. Murmas?
Maybe to make Alderman Wesley feel more comfortable with the decision, just remember, you've already committed to the project in the CIP by doing the downtown study and the Euler study. So you committed to doing that and following through with that, so you wouldn't want to back out now and then come back and say, well, wait a minute, we're backing out, we constructed the intersection, well, now let's go back and retrofit. It's going to cost you more money.
I'm not backing out of the project. My problem is, we know this is coming. We know it's going in the CIP. I understand that. We are going to sit down with the budget in the next couple months here and put in a budget. I mean, it's bottom line. I mean, if we're going to do this, then we might well not even do a CIP budget anymore and just have open checkbook. I'm not against it. But,
It sounds like you are, though.
but then you might well put sidewalks in too that we shot down.
Mr. Murmas?
Wait, Alderman Wesley's correct. I mean, budget's coming up, CIP's coming up. You've got really a very small amount of money to have you get the information you need to plug in the large amount of money into what you're talking about. If you don't do this, you're not gonna know what to do in a couple months. You do this, then you can allocate the money in a couple months.
Mayor, please.
The bottom line is, we are doing safety improvements next spring. And if we're gonna design where this clock tower iconic piece is gonna go, or whatever, now is the time to design it. We have a lot of projects coming forward over the next few months. We've got this one, we had the residents in here for the quiet zone, we've got Emerald Ash Borer coming up later. All these items are gonna have to be prioritized and whatnot when the time comes, at budget time. But if we're gonna make sure we do this right now, this is the time to spend the money. Unfortunately, sometimes we have to make a decision like that. And that project's gonna happen in the spring. I have not told everybody yet, but I've spoken to a couple of you. Metra did receive a call from Metra, and they seem to be ready to go in the spring. So that holdup for the safety improvements is not gonna happen supposedly. We need to move forward with this project if we're gonna push these things to the front.
Alderman Jacob?
I just have a comment. Prior to being an elected alderman, I mean, I sat here and seen a lot of money donated to places, a lot of projects or actually studies get put on the, get done and get put on the shelf. Now we have something we're actually trying to do to get the town improved. We need to do it. I mean, we can't, for $11,000, I mean, we just need to move forward. Thank you.
Do we have any other questions? Let's take a roll call vote.
Alderman Lazara?
Yes.
Alderman Jacob?
Yes.
Alderman Winger?
Yes.
Alderman Catalano?
Yes.
Alderman Roy Wesley?
Yes.
Alderman Woods?
Yes,
Alderman Eugene Wesley?
Yes.
that passes. Items to be considered at future meetings, Potter Street Pond options in October 24th, foreclosure property maintenance, October 24th. John, refresh my memory, what are we going to discuss about foreclosure property maintenance in October?
Well, this was a conversation that started a few months ago when there were a lot of concerns about the existing conditions at a lot of the foreclosed properties. I do have to say, since that time, the banks seem to have gotten on track and are being pretty vigilant in contacting maintenance companies, and I don't really know how much time we're going to spend talking about foreclosed properties in particular, because I think that that is a problem that's been kind of dealt with. If we want to talk bigger picture about some property maintenance enforcement, we could perhaps do that, or we could see what Jeff has to say.
Okay, Mr. Murmas.
Specifically, back when we talked about it, the issue was changing from 10-day notification periods to 7-day notification periods. That was the change to the code. It passed committee, then when it got to the council level, you guys tabled it back to committee. So that was the only standing item that was changed. So that's why we brought it back, because it was tabled and left for future discussion.
Okay, excellent, thank you. Any other question? Alderman Eugene Wesley.
In our pack, a couple of weeks ago, we got an email saying that Timber Lane is about ready to, Timber Court is about ready to be taken over toward the city of Wooddale, that they were putting a final grade. My question to you, and I have sent the email and I have not got a response back, is what about all the tickets that were issued out there that they owe us because they didn't finish the project? And why will we take it over unless those fines are not paid back to the city?
Mr. Murmas.
We're still currently working on that, as you stated. The memo said we were getting ready to, still an ongoing issue, and we'll give you an update when we have it.
So I'm hoping that this, we got the update and those are all clear up before it comes here. All I want to do is I want to make sure, will you have it at the next committee meeting?
Mr. Murmas.
I don't know at this time.
I would ask that that's on the agenda until it's clear up.
Can we put that on the agenda as you, Mr. Wesley requested? Alderman Jacob?
Jeff, question. I know Frank and I and the council have talked about Potter before, what to do with over there. Are we going to be talking about that in the upcoming future as well, or?
Mr. Murmas.
We can talk about the council strategy, sure.
Okay, I'd like to put that on the future.
Okay. Is that it? I make a motion to adjourn. Do I have a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We're adjourned.
Go ahead,
Before we start the next committee, I just want to say that Senator Cullerton is in the audience and want to extend the courtesy if the senator would like to speak to the residents or say hello, if you like, Senator. It's always a courtesy we extend. You need to go to the microphone, though.
I appreciate you, thank you very much. Appreciate you coming by, or allowing me to come by. You know, it's fun, it was actually fun sitting there watching all this. Many of you may know, some of you may not. I did 4 years on city council for Villa Park and then was lucky enough to be president for 4 years. And I absolutely love this. I mean, all the planning and zoning stuff, it's something we don't focus on in Springfield at all. Some of the issues, we don't get to go and touch the local residents on a basis that you guys get to, and I miss that. I really do. I was sitting here watching, and I go, man, I used to love going back and forth, talking to planning and zoning, talking to the community development director, finance, finding out solutions for your residents, and that was always one of my favorite things. But just wanted to give a quick update. Springfield is going well. We're going back down to veto session. We've got pensions we're dealing with. We're hoping very much to see a solution come out of the conference committee. I will say one effort that I was very disappointed coming from local government that did not pass. Some of you may have known, may not have known. There was a opportunity in a bill that I was a co-sponsor, a chief co-sponsor on, for direct deposit of LGDF funding. As it comes in, it goes right back to municipalities. That actually lost. The other co-sponsor, Toy Hutchinson, is actually looking to bring it back during veto session. So if it does come back, you'll probably get a call from DuPage mayors and managers going, Senator Cullerton's begging for help. Can everybody make phone calls and can everybody put letters out in the mail? So anytime, that would be immensely appreciated. Villa Park was much like Wooddale in that you guys were non-home rule. Another initiative I brought forward that actually did not even make it out of committee because of the lobbying efforts that were extended to it was allowing crime-free housing in non-home rule municipalities. For some of you who have heard of crime-free housing, go ask your neighbors in Addison, Glendale Heights, what they think of crime-free housing. They will tell you it's been an amazing tool to clean up landlords and rental properties. Non-home rule communities cannot utilize that tool. So I proposed a bill that would have allowed that to happen. Again, as I said, the lobbying efforts against it were absolutely staggering. It didn't even make it out of committee, but I'm working to try to get that done again, so you will probably get another call of help from me as well. Beyond that, we've been all over this district. I've been everywhere. Heck, I had a great tour of your park district, went to Top Golf, and saw the golf course, had a blast. What is one thing that'll probably affect you all coming up, and you've probably seen it over on Route 53, the trucks are out. The Elgin O'Hare is actually going to accomplish going to one of the names. It will be going to O'Hare Airport. So they are working on that, and they are extending that. And if you see the machines they're digging up by Route 53, that'll be where that major sort of cross-section is with 290 and the Elgin O'Hare crossing into each other. That project will probably last 8 years is what the tollway says. I know construction well enough in Illinois that it'll probably be more like 12. I'd love to say it'd be faster, but every one of you has seen what the construction schedule is like. It doesn't go much faster. Beyond that, I don't want to take too much of your time. I know there's a bear game going, and I know Alderman Lazaro loves a good bear game, so I can't imagine he's enjoying sitting here going, oh, I'm getting updates now, or I've got a DVR'd. But thank you very much. I think I knocked a lot of your doors when I was out knocking doors, and I know I was at Art's house at least 6 times. But, and then if you have any questions, please feel free.
Thank you, Senator.
Thank you.
And you're always welcome.
No, Alderman Wesley, you can't. Yes, of course you can, Alderman Wesley. It's your city council meeting.
I don't know if you came in when the residents were here about the quiet zone.
I was actually talking to your finance director. I'm going to hopefully get some updates on that, but I definitely work with Metra. Right now, I'm looking at working on a bill that Metra needs accomplished that talks about funding for Metra and the formula that's going on throughout the state of Illinois and how Metra's funding is different than the CTA's funding and PACE's funding. We seem out here in DuPage to kind of get the short end of the stick a lot of the times down in Springfield. My goal is to change that. So I will be more than happy to make calls and work with Metra because they're working with me on a couple other issues. This would be one just in many that I'll be more than happy to take up.
I'd like to see that in the bill if possible, so.
Probably a separate bill. I don't want to attach funding to a noise-free zone, because if I get people to vote
okay,
against
that's
it, I'd
true.
rather have the funding first, and then we
Okay,
can get
that's
the
fine.
noise-free zone.
That's fine.
But I'll be more than happy to take that up, more than happy to work on that with them as well. And I also know, and I'm also very good friends with the executive director of Union Pacific, who had started out as just sort of coming in and being the local liaison when I was mayor in Villa Park. He's now worked up, he's an executive vice president for Union Pacific, and he actually lives in Glen Ellen, so more than happy to work with Union Pacific as well.
Okay, thank you.
Certainly.
I just have one other question.
Yes, sir.
When you left Villa Park, did you have a quiet zone already?
Yes.
And how did you do your quiet zone?
That happened actually before, that was a coalition of us, Elmhurst, essentially that entire line.
Okay.
That entire line worked together, we all joined forces. The problem Villa Park has is because it's so close to the Proviso Yard and we have no underpass, we actually get trains, and that's the mayor's having the problem now. I had the problem beforehand, mayor before me had the problem getting those trains because they usually tend to block two of our intersections. So if you're a resident, since we had no underpass, but if any of you saw the underpass over in, what is that, on Grand Avenue, or saw the underpass in Downers Grove, those can range anywhere from $10 million to $18 million. Not many local municipalities have those fundings.
No, I knew you had a quiet zone, but I didn't know.
Right, and that was an effort probably 8-9 years ago, and it was all the cities combined together that are along that line.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Senator.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for having me. Thank you for allowing me to talk. And again, if you ever need me, the mayor's got my cell phone number. He can harass me at any time. So does Alderman Lazara. They can just beat me up whenever they want. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I'd like to call for a 5-minute recess, please. I'd like to call the Public Works Committee to order. Minute taker, make note that the same people are here. I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes of the meeting on September 12, 2013. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
That passes. A report and recommendation for the Emerald Ash Borer presentation. I'd like to turn that over to City Manager Jeff.
Thank you, Alderman Lazara. As the council had requested about a month or two ago, an update on our current emerald ash borer situation. You all received a memo with some high-level updates on the program, and I'd referenced a brief PowerPoint slide for the courtesy of both the council and the residents watching at home that are interested. So I'll just kind of walk the council through the PowerPoint unless anybody objects to that. What's that? Perhaps I'm in training to be an arborist. Again, just a brief recap. I know we probably know all this, but this is a ash tree identification. These are some of the things you would look for. Gray diamond-shaped bark, branches that grow opposite of one another, and a compound leaf composed of 7 leaflets. Ash trees are relatively easy to spot, especially now since most of them are dying. So they're even more easy to spot than usual. And here are the signs of infestation. Really the easiest one to spot, I'd say, is that bottom left corner. You typically see those sprouts coming out of the lower end of the trunk. That's a dead giveaway that it's an ash tree and it's dying. Then you get the D-shaped exit holes, the fissures of the trunk, and of course the tree actually dying, the canopy dieback. So those are the classic signs. As the council knows, we budgeted for the program a couple of years ago. We didn't originally allocate as much as we currently allocate now. We were quite a bit less than that, maybe even, I don't even think we were at half that amount when we first started. So this fiscal year, we had budgeted $25,000. To date, roughly about $8,000 has been spent. Over the course of those budget years, you can see that the city's already spent about $45,000 on the ash tree program. And you notice in parentheses the outsourcing component. We typically do a mixture for ash tree removals. We do a mixture of outsourcing, and we utilize our current public works staff. Future removal, just for clarification's sake, if you don't know, ash trees comprise about 10% of the total trees in Wooddale. If you were to take them all down at one time, while it's only 10%, some of these trees are very mature, they're very big, they're part of the neighborhood, add some character to the neighborhood, and some of them aren't dead yet or showing signs of being dead, and some of them are rather large that aren't dead. So that's one thing to keep in mind. What we're doing now, we do selective removal. Unhealthy trees, condition worst to first. That's what we try to do. We have a percentage ranking of each tree in town that's mapped into our GIS system. Our removal practice, like I said, has been some outsourced and some public works. And you notice the determining factors really are based upon size for the most part, the diameter of the tree trunk. And typically we try to do anything above 16 would be outsourced, just from the amount of time it would take for public works staff to do it and the wear and tear on equipment compared to a contractor that just comes in and rips it out rather quickly. The other factor is interfering objects in the way. much more time consuming than just a standard small, less than 15-inch diameter tree. Just walking through the steps, you can see these guys are taking down the tree. After you remove the tree, you stump grind the remaining stump, hence stump grinding. Then you clean out those grindings. Then you would have to backfill with dirt and grass seed. Notice with dirt and grass seed, because you're not typically going to replant a tree where you just took out the ash tree, which is why best arborist practices are always followed. We have 2 arborists on staff. Just because there's a ash tree in a residence parkway in front of their house doesn't necessarily mean when it's taken down that another tree is going to be put in. There may be not the opportunity to put any tree back. So if you look at some costs here, usually, now this is a ballpark, this is not set in stone, but on average, a removal cost is around $325 outsourced and around $275 that's salary. I'm not counting wear and tear on equipment or anything like that. This is just the salary for $275 in-house. That $275 number per tree, that's overtime cost if we were to do it on overtime. Right now, we do a mix of straight time and overtime. So again, that's an overtime cost. Replanting cost, around $250 per tree. That's separate from the removal cost, so keep that in mind. Again, it's possible to spread the removal and replacement cost over several years. That's currently what we're doing. Now you look over here, that top number, all outsourced, all at once, all new trees. Assuming we're gonna do all new trees, which we won't, so the worst case, that 112,000 is a worst case scenario. It won't happen, but if you were to take all the ash trees out and replace them in one bang, that's around $258,000. Then you see trees less than 15 in diameter. If we were just to outsource those instead of doing those in-house, you've got 110,000, and then you've got the trees bigger than 15. That's 100,000. So you could see it's kind of money we don't currently have right now. If you were to want to do it all at once, if the council made that decision, you would have to make some changes in the CIP because it would be quite a significant cost. Again, as you saw before, we only budget $25,000. I've got a couple more slides, but if there's questions right now, I can take a couple questions now and then go from there.
Alderman Roy Wesley.
I find it very interesting that you were just brought up about the CIP when we just voted on something else for a clock tower or whatever. So.
Is that your question?
Yeah, that is one of the
Okay.
questions.
Sounded like a statement.
It does.
It is. It is a statement, but the question too is, you have the prices here for in-house and out. How many trees are left? Do you have that number?
Yeah, it's in, well, we'll probably just finish the PowerPoint
Okay.
and then we'll go into it. Here's Wooddale ash tree population by ward. Alderman Lazara and Alderman Jacob, you're the lucky winners. You have the most ash trees in your ward with 157. Then Ward 2 with 74, Ward 3 98, Ward 4 40, and then we have some also ash trees in the industrial park. So you've got 450, roughly 450 ash trees still left. I'm sure there's probably a straggler or two missing. This is condition. Like I said, we kind of rank the trees from worst to first. If you see at the bottom, you've still got 216 ash trees in excellent condition. You've got 22 right now that are up and they're dead. Again, 28 very poor and so on. So you've got a great number of trees still in good condition. Here's that diameter reference that I talked about earlier. Typically, like I said, Public Works in-house doesn't go above, the 15, 16 range. So you can see a big chunk kind of fall, 13 to 18. That's borderline. Public Works might be able to do it. So that's just a breakdown for you there. here's it kind of summarized, less than 15 and greater, so. Plan progression on current course, if we continued what we're doing now, could probably get everything removed in the next 3 to 5 years. That's removal only. If you are starting to count, putting new trees in, which I assume you want to do, next budget season, you're probably going to want to bump up that number from 25 to 50 just to speed things up.
54,000 to be exact.
New trees, like I said, are trickier. Not every spot gets a tree. I know it's hard for residents to understand that sometimes. You know, you're pulling one out, why can't we get one in? So again, I want to stress that. We do hear that a lot. Keys for success, continue and increase public information. We have a little bit out there right now. We could probably step up our efforts. Staffing, utilizing outsourcing and utilizing public works, if that's the way the council still wants to go. Again, flexibility, responsiveness, persistency is a problem that's not going away. We've got over 400 ash trees still left, and that's it for the presentation.
Okay, Jeff. Thank you, Jeff. Alderman Eugene Wesley?
Could you go back a couple slides where the poor conditions and trees in it? All right, my question here is, first of all, how many are we taking down a week average that we contract out or that?
To date, this year, I think we've contracted out about 40 to 50 trees.
So as of this slide presentation, we have 28 and 22 dead or very poor shape, right?
Right now, we're in the process of cutting down some of the dead ones, so that I think that 22 number, I've got to go back and do the locations on it, but I'm pretty sure that the 22 is actually being taken out as we speak, you know, within the next week
Right.
or right now.
My question is, I would ask that we consider trying to remove the poor, the very poor, and dead trees by the end of this year. Okay? And then you're going to tell me there ain't no money there, but valid point. We can take money out of CIP to do that, even though it ain't funded. But again, this is something that ain't in the CIP, but this is a thing that's multiplying rapidly in all the other towns. Most towns are right now is coming to council and asking for money to remove them all at once. I'm not looking to move it at, because if you look at your poor trees right now, 68, those other 68 that are fair is going to be in that poor category next year.
All right, now, Jeff, you said we've only spent 7,000 of the 25,000?
Right.
Roughly 8,000, yeah.
8,000 of the 25, so
Yeah.
we could possibly pick it up then.
We can hammer out another pretty big chunk, and then, like I said, Public Works gets to some. The mass removals obviously come from outsourcing, but Public Works can hammer, you know, a number out as well.
All right, so can we do that? Can we pick it up, like what Alderman Eugene Wesley was suggesting? Or is
Yeah,
that,
I
are
mean,
we too late for
the intent is to spend the full $25,000. Now, remember what I said, though, that full $25,000 may not be a full $25,000 of removal costs, because we need costs for new trees. So you're not getting your full 25 for
So you ain't-
removal.
Go ahead.
So what I'm trying to say is you ain't spending, because that's counting planting a new tree using 25,000. You ain't spending a whole boat. And I will tell you, 25 Gs, 25,000 or whatever, we use part of it, not even going to put a dent in that very poor, because if you look at it, you got contracts on that out. So my best bet is, you know, this is multiplying rapidly. Let's get this program done, stretch it out for 3 years. There's other projects that we have to do in the project. We talked about the clock garden, we talked about that, we talked about water mains. You know, if we could do it now, then take them out now. Not all of them, but take the poor, the very poor, dead ones out now.
Right, yeah, maybe we should take a look at that. Alderman Woods?
Yeah, I was going to kind of comment along the same lines. I mean, we really should be a little more proactive and go after the dead ones, and the 3% dead, I think those are all in Ward 2. If you drive down Paramount, Manning, Carter, that whole there's got to be 50 trees that are dead there. So they're either going to come down in the next storm, you know, coming this winter, I mean, they're really bad.
Jeff?
That area that Alderman Woods is talking about is on the next hit list for the tree company to take down, so that'll be this month. I mean, that's on the list.
When you say next, what does that mean? Like next in a couple of weeks or next, like next budget year?
No, next this month,
Okay.
October.
Okay,
Thank you.
coming soon.
That's what I wanted to hear.
Okay, any other questions? Mayor, police?
Jeff, you said next. Are they going by section or the dead trees? They're going after the dead and the very poor first. I mean, you said next like they're gonna do this section and go to this section regardless of poor or not. very
Jeff?
poor.
Well, that's because quite often the trees are in groups where you get like a poor, dead condition tree. That's because the beetle was there, so it was likely in the tree next to it. So usually they come in groups. Whereas some of the excellent trees are usually grouped together as well. So it kind of does geographically
Okay, I
make
got you.
sense.
So, Jeff, what would the number, how much more extra do you need to replace trees and take them down, all the ones that we just mentioned? You can't go by the,
Well, you see, the cost for a new tree is a little bit less than,
how much
obviously.
more extra were you gonna need? We need a finance guy.
No, I mean, like I said earlier, I mean, technically this year we probably should have 50,000 budgeted instead of 25.
So we need,
29,000 is extra that we would need.
That's-
Okay,
I mean-
Alderman Catalano?
Jeff, what, what happens to, once they remove the trees? And how do they dispose of the dead tree?
They take it to their site and I don't know what they do with it. I just know that they take it away. We don't have to worry about it. Alderman Wesley may actually know more
So
about
they
it
don't
than me.
mulch it and put it in our mulching area with some discount?
Yeah, they probably contaminate.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions? Alderman Eugene Wesley?
So then if that's a dollar amount he's throwing out there, so I'll make a motion that we allow another 20, whatever Art says, $20,000 to
29.
29,000 to knock out those very bad, poor and move forward with.
Go ahead, Jeff.
Take out CIP.
I would ask if we're handing out money, could we just do 30, nice even number, get a
Fine.
couple extra trees?
I'll make a motion then to change it 30,000, take it out of CIP to continue to.
Second.
Back to that.
Okay, can we have a roll call?
Can I just clarify?
Yeah, go ahead, Chris.
The extra money spent, that's gonna be to do the dead, very poor and poor.
Go ahead, Jeff.
Yeah, we'll try to hammer out as much as the dead, very poor and poor via contractor, and we're still gonna supplement with Public Works as well.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Go ahead, Alderman Woods.
And does that include that we're planting new stock also, or is that?
Go ahead, Jeff.
Yeah, what I'm gonna do with the remaining money and the 30,000 added is get as many trees as we can down, but also balance that with whatever number of new trees that are appropriate. If we take 100 trees down, we may be only able to put 80 back, not because we don't have enough money, but because that's just the best
Right.
practice.
Okay.
Okay.
one more.
Alderman
Thank you.
Roy Wesley.
Jeff, did you ask the contractor if there's a winter price on these things?
Go ahead.
Oh, Jeff, go ahead, Jeff.
In this situation, what we're probably gonna end up doing is going out for bid for this, because it's going to be a higher amount. Right now, we have our brush collection company do it for us, just because it's, $5,000 here, $6,000 here for an area. We can probably get some better pricing, like you said, in the winter. I'll talk to some contractors. We'll get it hammered out one way or another within the next couple months. But we're gonna have to bid it out, so.
I would like this done as soon as possible, because what's gonna happen is liability. The trees are dying, the branches are falling, hitting cars or whatever.
All right, why don't we call for a vote then?
Alderman Lazara.
Yes?
Alderman Jacob.
Yes.
Alderman Winger.
Yes.
Alderman Catalano.
Yes.
Alderman Roy Wesley.
Yes.
Alderman Woods.
Yes.
Alderman Eugene Wesley.
And that passes. Thank you. And report and recommendation, pay request partial number 1 for Northwest General Contractors, Inc. for the 2013 infrastructure improvement project in the not-to-exceed amount of $451,927.80. That is my motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Roll call, please, or any questions? Okay, Eugene?
Is that bill just for a water main right now? Or is that for the alley too?
Go ahead, Jeff.
We've got, this is as of a couple days ago, this is for the storm sewer work in the alley, the tree clearing in the alley, some concrete work over there, Ethan Woods, the paving, concrete work, Montrose, concrete work, some paving.
Wait, I'm sorry, concrete work on the alley?
Concrete work on Ethan Woods.
Oh. All right, that's fine.
Okay. Go ahead, Roy.
Is it, when you're saying concrete work, you're talking curbs? I'm taking it.
Jeff?
Yeah, what they did, if there's an area where they're doing the water mains or storm sewers and they're repaving the street, if there's a damaged curb or damaged area, then they would replace that.
I'm going to a particular area of Ethan Woods. That would be for curbs, I guess?
Go ahead, Jeff.
Yeah, and that work has been completed, the concrete work in Ethan Woods.
And are they supposed to do the repairs for the grass and along with that?
Jeff?
Yeah, restoration was supposed to be this week. I'm not sure, I wasn't out there, I don't know if they did it, but it's supposed to be this season. So it'll be restoration for Ethan Woods would be sometime this month.
Oh, okay, because I hit a big,
I don't know if they did it yet, though.
no, they didn't, because I hit a big rock when I was cutting lawn over there.
Okay.
Because all I do is cut lawns.
All right. All I do is drive trucks. Okay, roll call, please.
Alderman Lazara.
Yes.
Alderman Jacob.
Yes.
Alderman Winger.
Yes.
Alderman Catalano.
Yes.
Alderman Roy Wesley.
Yes.
Alderman Woods.
Yes.
Alderman Eugene Wesley.
And that passes. Next, I have a report and recommendation, pay requests, final R.J. O'Neill, Inc. for the NWWTP HSI turbo aeration blower installation in the not-to-exceed amount of $67,800. That is my motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any questions? Roll call, please.
Alderman Lazara.
Yes?
Alderman Jacob.
Yes.
Alderman Winger.
Yes.
Alderman Catalano.
Yes.
Alderman Roy Wesley.
Yes.
Alderman Woods.
Yes.
Alderman Eugene Wesley.
And that passes. Next, I have a report and recommendation, pay request, partial number 5, Schroeder Asphalt Services, Inc. for the Royal Oak Subdivision Improvement Project in the not-to-exceed amount of $617,343.30. That is my motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second that motion.
Any questions? Eugene, Wesley?
I will tell you that I've been up there. This contractor has done an excellent job up there moving forward. I mean, just today I got an email saying they're going to start paving the section 1, 2,
Yeah.
and 3. So I didn't see any problems up there when I was up there about a week ago, and we'll see when the rain comes.
Right, I mean, I attend the meetings, and this project's going along very smoothly for us. Roll call, please.
Alderman Lazara.
Yes?
Alderman Jacob.
Yes.
Alderman Winger.
Yes.
Alderman Catalano.
Yes.
Alderman Roy Wesley.
Yes.
Alderman Woods.
Yes.
Alderman Eugene Wesley.
Yes.
And that passes. I don't have any items to be considered for future meetings. And go ahead, Wesley, Eugene.
I believe you do have an item for future meeting, the meeting that we attended this morning. That needs to be discussed in future meeting.
Do we have any report on that? I thought we were supposed to, but, go ahead,
Well,
Jeff.
Yeah, I mean, we're still gathering some information, just a brief overview at this time. The Phase 1B contractor would like to talk terms of, rediscuss the length of time of the contract, so they'd like to open that back up. So they'd come back to the council with some more information, but at this time, I'd really not
We're
feel
not ready
comfortable talking
for-
about it tonight.
All right, because we were going to just call for a consensus to see if, the board would be okay with that.
I mean, it'd still have to come back probably to council anyway, so wouldn't
Okay,
really.
go ahead, Alderman Eugene
The one
Wesley.
drawback I had on that, remember, they did state there's a certain deadline that we have to submit that in down in Springfield, remember that?
So when would be the next time we would bring this up then? Joe?
First council meeting in November.
And would that be enough time for them then?
I would believe so. I don't think it's a 5-alarm fire quite yet, so.
Five-alarm fire for fun.
Okay, Alderman Art Woods?
Yeah, Jeff, unrelated, but the sidewalk on Addison Road, is that,
Go ahead, Jeff.
Boy, I was hoping nobody would mention that tonight. I really was.
I was
gonna-
prodded by Eugene Wesley.
Oh, wait a minute, hold on. Never mind. Now I just shot myself in the foot because I was thinking you said Addison Road water main. That's the bad news. Addison Road sidewalk, that's moving along smoothly. That's going to start on the 21st, I believe. Now, Addison Road water main, you'll be getting bad news in your packets in another week or so. The project's going to be delayed.
Addison Road?
Yeah, the third phase of Addison Road water main.
Okay, well, we can wait for bad news next week then. Anything else? Okay, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Oh, I'm sorry.
All in favor?
Roll call? All in favor, I'm sorry.
Aye.
Aye.
I'm just so used to roll calls.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Motion carries. Adjourn.
I'll call the Finance Committee, make a minute taker, the same people are present. I need a motion to approve the minutes on September 26, 2013. That is my motion. I need a second.
Second.
Corrections, concerns, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Report of recommendation for read the Page County Water Commissioner rate increase. I will turn this over to Brad, just for you to know that this has to be increased because we have to pay for it, so.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. What you have before you tonight is the second of the DuPage Water Commission and City of Chicago rate increases. The last few years, when the DuPage Water Commissions increased their rates, the city has passed along penny for penny that rate increase. At this time, what was in the packet last week is asking just for that, just a penny for penny increase that the city is going to get from the DuPage Water Commission, which, as you may remember, was a combo platter between their financing needs and the City of Chicago's financing needs. So at this time, we're not looking to increase the city portion, the City of Wooddale portion, by any amount at this time.
Questions? Okay, Al, go ahead.
I mean, this is something that we should be concerned about. I mean, I know the city of Wooddale is not raising the water rates, but, I mean, seeing all these rates going up, I mean, we're talking about recapturing agreements. This is what we should be concerned about, this council, to figure out how we can stabilize and lower the water rates for all the citizens. So that's,
Well,
Yep.
again, you could do it on a city part, but in a county part like this, we don't have it, we're paying for this water. So whatever we pay for the water, we have to pay. So I understand your point, but, I mean, we aren't increasing our rate. This is a pass-through that, unless you want to fight Chicago, then we aren't going to pay it. See what happens. Go
Maybe-
ahead, Frank.
I think what Tony might be saying is maybe to have some type of a program where we can subsidize, like we do with the seniors. I think we were really talking about this a while ago, and maybe there's something that we should bring back up to the, back up to the table. So can we put that, well, I guess when we go to future items?
I guess we could, but the point, here's the thing I have with this, and I'm not, whatever way the council decided, it ain't my decision, but if you notice, this bill is due January of this year. So now, when do we have to write the check to them? I mean, I just want to make sure we got enough time to discuss it. I just,
No, this is later. He wants to talk about
No, they want to talk about it now. For this?
No.
Oh, future increase, okay. Okay, future increase, that's fine. Yes.
Yeah, just kind of to go along with that, I know, especially going into the budget season, there's always concerns and stuff like that. So staff is going to be very active this budget season through Fraser Knight, the CIP, and the operating budget itself to look at ways to contain those costs, to moderate those, because, you know, this doesn't even account for the debt service for the treatment plant and things like that. So staff is very cognizant of that going into this budget season. And so we're going to do our best to try and keep the costs as low as we can, to keep those numbers as low as we can, so.
Mayor, please.
Basically, this 65 cents is the pass-through from the City of Chicago and the Water Commission. Well, we were told, we were thinking about an 80-cent increase coming next May again. That's where we're gonna have the discussion, and hopefully we'll have it as we do the CIP, as we do the budget. That's when they start throwing out the ideas. Somebody's got some idea. I mean, Brad and I've been pounding Brad a long time on this. And he's also says he might have some other possible solutions besides a couple things I might have mentioned. But if we want to stop any increase, it's the city's portion in May. We shouldn't have one. We need to live within our means. And that's why we're gonna have to prioritize. We got a lot of projects. I mean, you saw it, quiet zone, ash trees, lighting, whatever. A lot of discussions coming up. Make sure your calendars are clear.
So I do have a motion to approve this, am I right? Right, do I have a second on the motion? I wasn't sure.
If not, I'll second.
Oh, Art would second
Oh,
it
Art-
before, that's
Art
right.
did.
So,
It was-
roll call, please. Yes, it's been a minute.
Alderman Lazara.
Yes.
Alderman Jacob.
Yes.
Alderman Winger.
Yes.
Alderman Catalano.
Yes.
Alderman Roy Wesley.
Yes.
Alderman Woods.
Yes.
Alderman Eugene Wesley.
Yes. Okay, items to consider future meeting, election official code conduct, October 24th. 13th, FY 13 audit presentation, November 14th. TIF, November 14th. Property casualty insurance bid results, November 14th. I mean, is there a way that we could move some of this up somewhere? Or it's a lot on November. I mean, TIF's presentation is going to take some time. I mean, I just want, or
Yeah.
could we lighten all the other departments' agendas for that? Because it's going to be a long discussion.
Yeah, I think that's the way the manager was going to go, because really, there's
The
not really
budget alone.
timing to move any of those around. The TIF presentation, I've been told, is between 30 and 45 minutes.
Right.
The audit presentation should be pretty quick, and the property casualty should be pretty quick. But,
Okay.
yeah, there's-
Alderman Roy Wesley.
If it would help, I'll table public health and safety. If we have anything in November, I'll take it off.
Well, thank you.
I don't know if there's anything there, but Greg, you got a month off.
I
don't know.
Anything else?
One more thing.
Go ahead, Alderman Roy Wesley.
When is the sewer treatment plant, when is it gonna be totally done? We talking about the water rates here,
2 years.
we don't know, it always worries me about having a final number for a project. In the water treatment plant, I know we don't have a final number, there's always anything that government does is always over, hopefully we won't be. But we don't have that number yet. So I have a problem of looking at water rates when we don't know where that number may be yet. If I know where that number is, then it's a different story. Well, you say approximate. How do we know it's not, some surprise not gonna pop up and it's gonna cost us another $75,000 or $80,000 or $100,000, whatever it may be?
Mayor, please.
That's why I'm saying, we don't want to just raise 80 cents or 90 cents in May again. We've got some numbers, we'll have to work with those. Otherwise, just raising another 80 cents is ridiculous.
Brett?
Yeah, to your point, we don't know the final price tag of it. However, we do know what the bonds we issued for 18 months ago. We know what that number is and what the debt service on that is. And we know what our maximum exposure through the IEPA loan is going to be and what that maximum debt service is going to be. So we know what the cap of that exposure is going to be. So when we're basing the assumptions on what the debt service repayment schedules are going to have to be, we're using those max numbers. So at that point, we're saying this is the worst case scenario. And then as we get through the year and a half, 2 years of the completion of the treatment plant, we are going to refine that number down. So we're going to start high and then bring it down low. Also, that being said, we're not going to go from tier to here the first year. It's going to be a gradual tiered increase so that we're not whacking everybody all at once with this massive rate increase. And that'll give us time to refine the number as we go through to get to where we need to be. If that makes sense.
So, any other items? I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Motion carries. Thank you.
So Greg, do we have anything?